I thought we'd kick back and relax and enjoy a little bit of winning. And what we're going to talk about is the culture war. Now, a lot has been said about this topic, but I like to try to come from like huge topic, very huge topic, not the kind of thing that you could put like a really accurate video out without dozens and dozens of hours of work and a lot of reading and a lot of research. But we're going to give it a shot on an hour and a half of show prep because I do think something very important happened. And it's very easy to talk subjectively about what we witnessed over the last decade or two, but it's another thing entirely to try to measure it. And that's what I try to do. I try to measure shifts in public opinion, and there's really nobody like us. There really isn't. So if you like that, please hit like, share this out there, maybe give the tweet a retweet if you're watching on Twitter. But I did find one important thing to measure, and also a really stunning story, something that really upset the mainstream media. And it's just absolutely glorious because, like I said, it's winning. And we're going to start with this.
Every time I see people that disagree with anything that's happening, any gigantic world events, it's one of these retarded shows where they're screaming. There's the word again. We brought it.
There's
We were
the
just
word
talking
again.
about
You
that.
did it early.
The word retarded is back, and it's one of the great culture victories that I think
It
is spurred on probably by podcasts. But
Yep, it's a cultural victory. Now, listen, this is not about mentally neurodivergent or what. This is not about those individuals at all. It's just about our ability to use words, because some words you can say, other words you can't. And it's really kind of weird. And I understand like not wanting to hurt people's feelings. But again, at the same time, like we were tough kids. I don't know. When I grew up, we hurt each other's feelings. And God help you if you were Polish back in the back in the 1980s, or Helen Keller for that matter. But I probably used that word 1,000 times before I was like 15. And so we can be adults here and toughen up and say, listen, let's just be able to joke with each other. Why is everybody so uptight? And you could say, oh, well, they are, or, oh, well, they aren't, or oh, it's just a word. But it actually, it's really more than that. And first, let me do say, though, I was doing my part, just like the meme from Starship Troopers. I was out there using the word too. I probably said retard 10,000 times when I was a kid. But being anti word basically makes you the fascist from the 80s who hated pop culture, rock, AD&D, video games, and dancing. It basically like every bad guy from every 80s movie ever. Be on the right side of history. We should be able to use words, and we should also not really have to care if somebody's offended, because words are not violence. And it's easy to make light of this topic, but we live through a very big period of censorship. And we're going to talk about how that really has impacted politics and the cultural war. But here's what happened. Here's what sort of like kicked off the discussion, the thought process in my head. It's this article out of the disgusting and failing NBC News. They lie in their polls. Yep. The R word, embraced by Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. Not just Rogan, it's Elon Musk. Anything to attack Elon Musk inches back into the mainstream. So basically, it's Elon Musk's fault that people are using this word again. Many still consider the word a disability slur. They said, let's look at the thesaurus. Let's come up with the best word to use that makes it absolutely horrible. And while its use stupid's a slur, right? And while its use has percolated in the comedy world for years, only recently has it, and discussion of its return, become more common. Now that's interesting, though, the way they phrase that. Been used in comedy circles. Has it? I don't know. Seems like nobody's really talking about comedy. Very little stand-up. People don't like their feelings hurt. Dave Chappelle comes out with some kind of routine and the trannies try and take him out. I don't know. I've been saying I will know the cultural war is finally over when I go to a comedy and laugh. And we're going to talk about a comedy movie, but post in the comments the last comedy movie that you laughed about. I'm really interested in seeing, because I had a hard time thinking about it until I, searched around and tried and did a little bit of work for this video. In a recent episode of his highly influential podcast, Joe Rogan declared what he sees as the latest triumph in the cultural battle over language. Turn of the R word. It'll be evident in a moment why we're focusing on this. Every time I see people that disagree with anything that's happening, any gigantic world events, it's one of those retarded shows. Yeah, they didn't like that. NBC was not a fan of that quote. Rogan is right, at least to those in some circles, once relegated to the cultural dustbin. That's right, it had been cleaned up and filed in the circular filing cabinet. They had gotten rid of that word. The so called R word has made a resurgence in recent months, used most commonly by people in right leaning and anti political correctness worlds, some of whom have tried for years to bring the slur from social media undercurrents back into the mainstream. So it's a plot. It's like a decade long plot to take control of the word retard and bring it back into. No, it's a byproduct of everything that's happened, obviously. Tesla CEO Elon Musk now frequently uses the word on X to disparage everyone from a Danish astronaut to Ben Stiller. In March, Kanye used it in questioning the mental capacity of Beyonce and Jay-Z's twins. Oh, I missed that. Only to later issue an apology. So also note that they're putting Kanye and Elon Musk in the same paragraph as if they like colluded to perpetrate this crime on the American culture. The FX show The English Teacher included a bit about how the kids are not into being woke and they're saying the R word again. Oh yeah, again, because they did a lot for probably all of the, I'm guessing, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Maybe some of the older Xers or boomers could weigh in, but as a Zennial on the cusp of X and Millennial, it was definitely something that we used. Geez, there were probably garbage pail kid cards that had it in there. While it's used, 'cause they're rehashing the same old stuff, but it's getting wild, and they're blaming it on Twitter. They're trying to blame it on Elon Musk. This is just from January. Use of the slur retard triples on X after Elon Musk shares the word in a post. And so, again, bringing it back to Elon, this is back when they were trying to call Elon Musk a Nazi. They were saying, oh, look at also what he's doing. He's radicalizing so many people. They actually spent money, probably your taxpayer money, to do this research in Montclair State University. And yeah, highlights from the study include a 207.5% increase in posts containing the R word on X after Musk's post using the slur on January 6, 2025. Yeah, they rushed this out pretty fast. Crazy. I bet you they spent a lot of money. But here's why we're talking about the word. I've been looking for a way, multiple ways, to measure what we witness. And obviously, it can be measured by the ballot box. It can be measured how Donald Trump came in, convinced a pretty meaningful chunk of the electorate to vote for him, then increased his vote tally, and then increased his vote tally again. And we look back over the 10 years and try and put into perspective what we witnessed. And I think this might give us a little bit of insight, but this is Google search trend volume for the word retarded, going all the way back to 2004. And you'll notice that, okay, this is the beginning of Google. And I don't know what the wild, wild west of the internet was like back then. I mean, it's hard to remember. But, it all solidified by 2007, 2008. And what you're seeing here is kind of flat numbers during the Bush years and into 2010, 2011. But notice it's really about like 2010, 2011 where it starts to tick down. It's really like kind of an Obama thing. And again, correlation is not causation, but there's a lot of things correlated with this date that we're going to look at. I think this was a very pivotal time in our cultural history and the zeitgeist. A lot of stuff was going on. And yeah, you'll notice, I think right about here is where the CERN the CERN Large Hadron Collider was turned whatever. But anyways, it steadily decreased even through the Trump years. The Orange Man's nasty tweets didn't bring the word back into our lexicon. And then what happened is look at this. It bottomed and has turned around. And now use of the word is increasing. And what you'll notice is that the use of the word increasing in Google organic search volume is not tied to the 2024 election, to Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter. It started before then. It started here. And that's really fascinating. This date is September and October of 2021. So let's look at all these dates and try and put this stuff in perspective. Let's go back to before use of the word retard stopped disappearing. And I looked for it in movie quotes, and it was really easy to find it before about like 2011, 2012. This is Tropic Thunder. I think this was 2009, 2008. Funny movie. A lot of funny stuff in there, but it used the word. It's one of the most famous quotes from the movie, in fact. Then you had this. I think this is 2011, Hangover, right on the edge. And Grok had a hard time coming up with prominent quotes from mainstream media, from mainstream movies after this one right here. I think they used it a couple times. Also a funny movie. What other funny movies people put out there? Well, we'll go back and look later. But a lot of people have been thinking about this for a very long time. Probably a lot of money spent on this. A lot of stories, I'd imagine, about people having their feelings hurt and about how disgusting it is. But scientific studies as well, again, maybe taxpayer funded. Sticks, Stones, and Stigma, a study of students' use of the derogatory term retard from April of 2010, right in that little area there where use stopped at scale. The present study explored the prevalence of the derogatory invective retard, the R word. There's the R word. I didn't realize that people would say the R word going all the way back like 15 years. That's pretty wild. In everyday speech among American youth, yeah, they studied it. They were doing it, and it's really incredible. You know, I didn't want to pay for it. That's just the abstract. But it's like this came to mind. And what's funny is that this also happened about the same time. Andrew Breitbart, very boldly and in advance of Trump, decided to cast off the attacks of racism, of meanness, of all of the things that they would label conservatives. And he said that he declared war on these people. And a lot of people were not happy. But also about the same time, I think it was attributed to a 2009 speech. He said that politics is downstream from culture. Now, is it always? I don't know. Barack Obama was an up and comer before really he built this cultural zeitgeist movement and entered the White House. And you can argue about what came first. But what I definitely think we saw is that the culture war was won before Trump won a second time with a mandate large enough to govern on MAGA and America First principles. And that's that turnaround point in September of 2021. I think that was the year. A lot of people were on YouTube complaining about what they were doing to our entertainment. A lot of blowback about the COVID over restriction. A lot of absolute disgust leveled at Joe Biden because of what happened in Afghanistan. We'll look at his approval rating. We'll track right direction. But like other stuff was happening in this period. I just want to look at a few more things to really appreciate how different this period was. Everybody was on Facebook 2007, 2008, 2009. People were getting their first iPhones, and that was all the buzz. And there was a very rapid change in tastes about what type of things the young ones wanted to consume. And what we've been talking about the young ones a lot and their shifts in taste, and we haven't yet quite seen where that's going to end because everything there is no real entertainment zeitgeist right now. Everybody's just consuming whatever the heck they want on Netflix. And yet at the same time, 18 to 29-year-olds are galvanizing, becoming more conservative. They're going to want something. They're going to glom on to something. That's part of the fourth turning. They're going to take a leadership position, they're going to fill the vacuum. But look at what was happening back then. It's just crazy to look at like the relative popularity of entertainment that people were consuming. You know, Seinfeld was really popular before this, before the Google search results really happened. But by then, interest was really low, and Lost was a really big show. You know, you could see the seasonal cycles here. A lot of people were searching for it. And then out of nowhere came Glee, fall of 2009. And it was just what the doctor ordered. Everybody loved it. All of those misfits in high school, all of those misunderstood people, all the special little snowflakes singing their songs and acting dramatic, exactly keyed towards younger millennials, older Zoomers. It's what they wanted. They drank it up and they voted for Barack Obama, and they loved uniqueness, hope, and all of this stuff. Look at it. It's really crazy. And then it just sort of fizzled out. And I think that you'll find if you overlaid it, I didn't have time, that the collapse in the interest in the show Glee, maybe, I don't know what happened on the show. Maybe they wrote some characters off. I don't know. But it parallels, in my opinion, the waning of zeal behind Obama's support. Pretty fascinating. Here's a picture just from early 2010, mere months after season one of Glee debuted. Was it '09 or was it '08? It was '09. And here is the staff or the cast of Glee at the White House meeting Barack Obama at the Easter egg roll. It's beautiful. Rags to riches. What a tale. What a wonderful thing. So here's some numbers, right? We want to look at numbers. And what we're looking at now is this is Biden. This is him coming in, sorry, right here, with a lower right direction than Trump, but it was COVID, and it was just after the Capitol riot. And it was still relatively high, though, 42%. Not bad. Not bad for a barely cogent individual. And it immediately collapsed to one of the lowest numbers that we had seen going all of the way back, basically like 8 years. Hadn't been that low since the middle of Obama. This was, I think, when was that? Was that 2013? What was going on in 2013, 14? It wasn't the European credit crunch. Maybe it was Obamacare stuff. Anyways, look how low it got. That is the turning point. That's the turning point. Biden came in, right direction was relatively high, but all of the blue states were unwinding all of their COVID restrictions. People were getting happy and going out and getting their vitamin D again. It was really wild. Didn't have to wait in line and go up and down aisles in the grocery store. And nobody was really focusing on his politics. You know, he ran on uniting America, and Donald Trump went away. A lot of conservatives were censored in this time period, I will also remind you. And also, people were really mad about the vaccine mandates and COVID overreach. But, you know, they were still kind of happy that the heel was being lifted from their throat. Oh, and then Afghanistan. Then Joe Biden left billions of dollars, gave up an airbase to China. People got blown up. There's people, there's like Taliban dropping from aircraft. Like, it's brutally disgusting. Everybody was like, oh my God. And about the same time, that's when the chants started. FJB in the stadiums over and over again. And our November 2021 matchup, Joe Biden with Donald Trump, Joe Biden was underwater 13 points when ostensibly he won by 4, right? Like, America, you know, they hated this guy. And it comes back to, I think, the Barack Obama quote: never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F stuff up, man. That's what happened. And right direction went down, not that bad. I mean, we weren't in a pandemic or a great financial crisis anymore, but low 30s. Uh, actually high 20s for a lot of this period. So bad. Now we're at 47 again today. I'll just throw that out there. We'll look at the snapshot later. And so that's what I think kind of happened is that people just got upset with this like pedantic hall monitor um political correctness, and the blowback started when all the support for Joe Biden collapsed. It like evaporated overnight and it was gone. And the regime lost all its power. Everybody decided to hate authority as if a light switch had been turned on. And I think that you can pinpoint that date, September 2021. Put it in the bank. That's when the culture war was won. And that's why Donald Trump was able to win. Now, there are some other ways we can try and measure this. Just other polling to give you a general idea of the distaste. And maybe some of this will be useful or not, but like June 2020, only 30% trust the political news they're getting, 53% no. This is the kind of environment that allowed people to mistrust Trump. But going into 2020 election, going into 2021, this stood out to me. Are you following the news more closely or less closely than you were a year ago? 44% more closely, only 16% less closely. Some of that's obviously COVID. And I was thinking back, I'll tell you, we've talked about election integrity. I've done the polling. I know there's problems. We've covered evidence. We actually have polling that points to the fact that people even tell us out of their own mouths that they broke the law and committed election crime, whatever. Two things can be true at once. I do think stuff happened in the swing states, robbing Donald Trump of that win, but I also do think that Joe Biden did get a lot of votes. As many votes as he did? No, I don't know. But the cultural zeitgeist in 2020 was masking up, was complying, was watching the news, was getting involved politically. MSNBC ratings were through the roof. And so I do think what also kind of happened is that those people came together in a new political movement, pulling in more normies. And that's one of the reasons that Joe Biden's turnout went up so high, again, with an asterisk, right? With a whole lot of mail in ballot asterisks. But they created a movement and then they were rug pulled pretty brutally. And I think some of those people hung on, glommed on to Kamala Harris just to wait it out and see what happens, to see how the story would end. And when she lost, I think those people have evaporated. Like I think we're going to see lower turnout elections now. I think a lot of people on the left, specifically supporting these people who were oppressive, right? Who were oppressive, have just sort of given up trust in the government as well because now it's run by Donald Trump. So we haven't finished measuring all this, but I mean, like, here we are in October 2021. So this is right around the time period where it's happening. It's happening. Has America become more united or more divided since last year's election? 11% more united, 64% more divided. And keep in mind that theoretically Joe Biden got a majority of the national popular vote and ran on uniting people just like a year prior and actually promised to unite America. And within a year, everybody's like, no, you failed. Did a bad job. You didn't unite America. Not even a majority of Democrats, 48%. This is like they got the wind knocked out of them. It was a gut punch. Now, obviously, a lot of them, I don't even think we're answering polls. 81% of Republicans said more divided, only 6% more united. 63% of independents, 63 to 9, more divided rather than more united. And only 10% rated him excellent in terms of uniting the country. Only 30% excellent or good. Only 18% of Democrats excellent. This is horrifying for the person who got more votes than any other president in the history of American politics. And one of the highest turnout percentages in the last 80 years we checked. It was higher than either Trump or either Obama. The percent turnout of the electorate that went to Joe Biden, this like they hate him. 53% say poor, 23% of Democrats say poor, 60% of independents say poor. This is when everybody was just looking around and saying, what did we do? Our headlines were like Biden remorse. That's what we put out there. Yeah. Some other polling, that I thought was relevant. racism, it's a little bit different than the derogatory terms, right? But people are fed up with this stuff. Only 34% say racism is a serious, very serious problem in America, down from way higher numbers. And 44% say we talk about race too much, 32% not enough. This is just from last year. How concerned are you that you might be accused of racism? Only 13% are very concerned. Less than 3 in 10 are at least somewhat concerned. 40% and another 29%, so that's almost 70% are not concerned. 29% not at all. They're done. They're like, "No, I don't care if you call me racist. We lived through Joe Biden. We lived through Joe Biden." And, yeah, when talking about things like the R word, probably relevant to talk about social media censorship because that played a lot into this. One of the reasons people were upset again is all of these accounts getting nuked, hundreds of thousands off of Twitter, conservatives shoved into echo chambers, basically shouted down about their concerns on the vaccine. Like, remember, mainstream media said that it's ghoulish, yes, but maybe necessary to talk about the unvaccinated dying. Like, that's how you get answers like this. How confident are you that social media can censor questionable content in a fair and unbiased way? Only 11% very confident, 68% not confident, 45% not at all confident, a majority of Democrats not confident, an extreme majority of independents not confident. That's 75%, 56% not at all confident. And so this comes back to this whole idea. And again, we didn't ask the question directly. It wasn't front and center. It's only in hindsight can we look and just the overlaying of that word retarded on Google search trends for it to line up so beautifully with these turning points in the way that cultural direction has been like pulling over the last like crazy. We're talking about a 20-year cycle here, super cycle. It's really incredible. And I had our approval chart. We've seen this before. But look at this. This is the period we're talking about. Joe Biden, this blue line here, this is the fall of 2021. The lowest numbers ever of any president we ever polled ever were happening in this time period. He was the most hated president ever of anyone at that period of time, more than Trump. Literally, a majority of the country, a majority, thought that Donald Trump was an asset of Russia, our enemy, our proxy enemy, and he still polled better than Joe Biden. That's how bad it was. Majority wanted to impeach Joe Biden in January of 2022. Like everybody knew. It's really crazy. And the left's been driven afield. They don't like Twitter anymore. They went to Blue Sky. And I feel sorry for them because it's not working out. I've been to Blue Sky. It's horrifying. But when leftists moved to Blue Sky because it saw a 17x increase in moderation reports in 2024 after rapid growth. Really incredible. And then there was this Newsweek, conservatives joined Blue Sky, face abuse and censorship. So like there's no abuse and censorship on Twitter. I can tell you what, because I've had a lot of hot takes. And no, it all went with the left to Blue Sky. Basically the Karen Hall monitor Janny, internet Janny like culture of the internet. A growing number of conservatives have been joining Blue Sky, the microblogging website being touted as an alternative to Elon Musk's X, where several say that they have either faced censorship from the platform or widespread abuse. One prominent conservative social media user said their Blue Sky account was shut down after they posted there are only two genders, while another was slapped with a content warning after labeling Rachel Levine, a transgender woman in the Biden administration, as Man of the Year. Oh, no. Oh, that's hilarious. That's the thing. Like, that's not what Twitter is anymore. It literally migrated to an entirely different site. They took their ball and went home. They don't want to play no more. And you can say the R word on one site and not the other. It's glorious. And it's like, who even cares other than for the fact that the censors got wrecked They got owned. And you know what? It's not even working out for them. That's what's beautiful about it. This is the blue sky. Oh man, the statistics they publish these like on a daily basis. Daily individual users who like at least one post, down from 2.8 million back in November after the election to 1.5, almost a 50% collapse. Oh no. And these are all like equally horrifying. Some of them worse than others. The number of unique daily posters down from 1.5 to 780K. That's even closer to a 50% collapse. And the daily number of people who follow other people, 1.8 to, oh no, like a half a million. That's what's that, 60%? That's like, oh no, look at that. Down from 3 point, no, as I wasn't zoomed in enough. That was January. Down from 3.1 to zero point 0.5, a 6x collapse. Now, obviously, they've gone on there and met their people and linked up with all of the like-minded folks in the echo chamber. But look at this chart. Everything's moving in the wrong direction because blue sky's garbage. I would put it up. I did not join. I would put it up, but there's a non-zero chance that we're going to get whips and leather and like strap-ons and stuff. You got to be really careful on blue sky. It's gross. But you know, there's like we can go to Google trends and see similar things that show that just stuff was all moving in the they pushed it too much. Look at the searches over 20 years for unbiased news, inexorably increasing, and at their absolute maximum, September, October of 2020, not at the start of COVID, after the summer of love, during the election, and dropping off right around the time that Joe Biden started to suck. This, I think, is part of that turning point. Definitely related, like maybe the 1-2 punch. Really incredible. And what's interesting too is that other like it spiked again in 08, 09, right around the period that again Obama was coming in to fill a vacuum. You can look at all kinds of different measures. I like sometimes just play around with Google Trends, and if you found a good one, tell me, and I'll try and put it up. But look at this. I just picked two random words to try and represent. Like movie trailer to me is like consume product, do what everybody else is doing. Let's take the push entertainment and not the pull entertainment. Let's just, you know, be an NPC and go enjoy a Friday night at the movies. And we're not looking at absolute comparisons, we're looking at relative. Organic searches for the term movie trailer were super high right around January of 2009, right around Obama, right around the same time when use of the word retard started to drop. And this is obviously like Avatar was coming out there. You know, people loved movies more and more. Phase one was in this time period as well. I think Iron Man had just started coming out. It's really crazy. Like the corporatists had won. They created the America they wanted and they got their man elected. And then it all started going downhill. Slowly, slowly, more. Look at how much it dropped though prior to COVID. COVID didn't kill the movies. It was just the final straw. Look, October of 2019, December of 2019, 14, January of 2012. There was no COVID. That's down from 44. So almost a 4x, like a 3.5x drop in interest in movie trailers all through the Trump years after Obama. They were losing the culture war. And Trump helped, and then it hit rock bottom after COVID. But look what happened starting in the Obama administration. I think authenticity was in desperate supply. People had run out of fake and gay. They were sick of it. And increases in the search for the term podcast, which again, I chose these randomly, but I think podcast represents authenticity. Movie trailer represents consume product. And the relative difference here is just incredible. Podcasts went roughly like 25 up to 100. So a 4x increase in getting news and information and discussion from a human you trust. Crazy. Here's another one. I love this one. Look at Star Wars Episode 4. Now, unfortunately, there's a massive spike here, so it makes the numbers not stand out as much. This was probably a re-release in advance of like the sequel trilogy, and I'm sure this was also probably some new cut. But if you look, there's a steady volume of people, 4, 5, 6, 7%, like intermittent spikes here, and then a complete collapse, just a complete and utter collapse. And what you can see here is rapid increase in another Disney property, well, a Disney licensed property, Bluey, value driven family entertainment. Looking at the 5 year, it's more stark. Look at this. People are searching Bluey, children's animated television series, like 20 times more than Star Wars A New Hope. Complete and utter collapse. Here's another one. I looked at this on Walt Disney World Pro's channel, WW Pro. Look at that inexorable decline in searches for Walt Disney World, and look at the massive spike in interest for Epic Universe. Now, obviously, there's a lot of interest because it's being released, it's new, people are trying to find out stuff about it. But this is a death chart for Disney, man. Universal might eat their lunch. People have been losing interest in the old corporatist things, kind of things that got you Obama. Look, massive interest. 08, 09, 06, like then it starts to decline. It literally, the spikes went down. I don't know. There was probably some great financial crisis, a lot of less discretionary capital to spend, but it had largely, we'd come out of the woods by then. And then it's nothing but downhill since 2011, 2010. The last time that Retard turns up in a mainstream comedy movie. People are putting out research about how everybody's using the R word too much. All of this is linked together. And there's probably many more things that I'm not even thinking about, but it's decimating companies now. Disney can't even put out a hit. Every single thing they put out's a flop. It's incredible. And yet on Twitter, it's the zeitgeist. This guy went from like 0 to 740,000 followers in a month or two. Look, he joined December, had a meteoric rise, and it's Retard Finder. Oh, and look at that. He follows me. I didn't even know that. Oh, yes. Oh, that's great. Because I've given him some stuff, some people to look at. Oh, man. I am one of 568 people followed by Retard Finder. I love it. With all the little brainlets. And he's celebrating too because of the same thing. The R word. Everywhere I look, people are posting the word retard. We did it. We helped bring the word back into the mainstream. Imagine we made it trend. They would melt down. Let's do that. Let's repost. Oh, yeah. Taking swipes at Last of Us, taking swipes at, oh no. Yeah, it's funny. You should follow it. It's hilarious stuff. And so I hope all this isn't nails on the chalkboard for people that just don't like the word retard. We should be able to call people that. Like, why not? Is it any different than calling them any other slur? So I thought that was all really fascinating stuff. The way it just overlaps and it kind of fits with what I felt like culture was going on at the time. There were a lot of ups and downs. I spent a lot of my early life like looking forward to major cultural touchstone like movie releases. The amount of stuff that I followed for Jurassic Park and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And now I don't even know if I'll ever watch another movie again. I don't care. I hate Hollywood. I hope it burns to the ground, as do many, many people. And those are the same people virtue signaling about how we can't offend each other because words are violence. You guys lost. And no, I just saw another article. Hollywood production is not coming back to California. Like this isn't, that's what I'm trying to portray. This isn't about Trump and Democrats. This isn't about loss. This is about an utter and crushing defeat, punctuated by a Trump victory that illustrates the end of a protracted cultural battle. And I love it. If you've learned something, please follow us at rasmussenreports.com, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter. And thanks for watching.